professional sport properties and whether or not it's financially rewarding, advisable, what are the benefits and derivatives, and what does the real financial landscape of that particular market look like. So this is just a short article I prepared, and I try to update it on a regular basis, which kind of leads into this talk. There's a couple of key terms in there I'll point out to you, but obviously capital appreciation and net asset value are two monetary accounting terms that you want to become familiar with. So they would have been in the first paragraph. You can circle, highlight, or underline them. So the notion here is that there is value, but there's also expense. There's reward, but there's also great risk associated with investing into professional sport properties or those franchises. And so this article kind of begins to unveil it for you or open it up for you. We have seen in the last 2 decades more and more privateers. That would be private individuals, private corporations, or partnerships with a group of people. We've seen more privateers buying into professional sport by either starting franchises, buying franchises, combining franchises, both at the major and largely at the minor league level. Although you might be familiar with the slight expansion of football or baseball or basketball, the truth is the majority of the franchise advancements have been in the lower tiered minor leagues. As we start a new minor league and add 15 or 20 new franchises, or several minor leagues and add 15 or 20 franchises or more in each of those divisions, what you have is an expansion of minor league franchise ownership to the tune of hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. The individuals that own the Drive, who I've communicated with on numerous occasions, we've had a couple of the vice presidents come speak to us. At one time or another, the Drive was worth over $10 million, and to a privateer, that's a significant investment. And we're going to talk a lot as we move into the next phase of this class, the public-private partnership with the team and a city that owns the facilities, and what does that relationship look like and how does that play out. But on a minor league level, minor league franchises could be as valued as little as $1 to $2 million, and obviously more than $10 million for a single A baseball team. We could look up asset values of AA and AAA or other minor league sports, and you would find that they would be in the tens and 20s of millions of dollars. So we're talking about hundreds of minor league franchises that evolved in the last 20 or 30 years, as well as a handful of major league franchises to the tune of probably billions of dollars. So why do rich people like to buy professional sport franchises? Because it's public and it's very appealing to the wealthy elite? Is it because they want to own something that they can show off as a gem on their finger or a necklace around their neck? Yeah, certainly there's a sense that they have an affluence when you get to demonstrate that you're an owner of this or an owner of that. We've seen celebrities buy into certain sport properties. I think more recently the Miami Dolphins had some celebrity owners, and they've bought and sold on several occasions. And that's one of just several examples. Obviously, rich corporate entrepreneurs have been buying not only here in the West, but even those from the Far East have come over. We talked about emerging markets. Well, certainly we've seen millionaires and billionaires from the Far East come over and buy into the Seattle Mariners and into several other organizations. The Houston Rockets have significant ties to Asia, not to mention some of the other franchises. So we're seeing Asian market money, and not to mention European and other monies come, and I don't want to say invade, but buy into as an investment opportunity Western professional sport franchises. So why do they do that? Maybe we need to boil it down to just a bare roots understanding. To what value is there for a rich person to buy a professional sport property? Let me put it back to you. Somebody raise their hand and tell me. Yes, Katie. I'm sorry, Jesse.
No, they sell them for more money.
Okay, so there's a gain to be found or a gain to be had. The truth is, you buy any investment because you want to do what?
Make money.
You want to sell it for more money. Isn't that the case with any investment? Whether it's a block of gold, a baseball card, a piece of land, a business, it doesn't matter, a gem, a piece of jewelry. If you're looking at it as an investment, you buy it because you anticipate it's going to grow in value, you're going to sell it, and you're going to recoup the difference. The beta is your profitability, your growth. Yeah, so obviously professional sport properties appear to have a lot of growth built into them. And that growth, from an accounting perspective, is what we call the capital appreciation. So that's a great term to kind of launch with, is that when rich people, the elites, the corporate elites, or the uber wealthy, that's a Dr. Boulay word, he loves to use the uber wealthy. When they make investments, they don't make investments at the same level you and I do. You and I buy stock at $100 a share, or $1,000 at a time, or when you get to my level, maybe you're buying $3,000 and $4,000 and $5,000 at a time. But the uber elite, they're spending millions on an individual investment, and that's an area we don't rove in yet. I hope you all get a chance to play in those territories. But so their investments, their capital investments of hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars at a time, has to be into assets and investments that have an ability to grow well beyond that. So their capital investment is much larger, therefore the asset has to have significant value to begin with. And not only does it have significant value, it has significant upside, which is fancy, for it has tremendous growth opportunity, and that's the NAV, the net asset value. When they make a capital investment into a significant investment, into a significant property, they anticipate it's going to grow magnanimously. And then when they sell it, they'll recoup that. Well, whenever they sell it, that price discovery is the net asset value, the value of it. They may buy a professional sport franchise for $400 million, and they may do a series of things over 10 years and sell it for $900 million. And that growth of $500 million, that capital appreciation is realized. The net asset value is $900 million, and they've made about 130% profit, or they've more than doubled their money. To take $400 million and turn it into $900 million is extensive. And that's what they're looking for. And the truth is, professional sport franchises have realized that. They've realized this continual stepping up of the overall value. Some of the assets you and I buy, like real estate, for example. Real estate has always appreciated in value, dirt, but it doesn't appreciate at that rate. So the rate of a professional sport franchise, just blossoming so largely in the last 10 to 20 years, is impacted by stuff. Real estate grows about 1 or 2% a year, 3% a year. It's subtle, but it's continuous. It's consistent. So over the span of a 5 or 6 decade life, if you're 20 years old and you think you're going to live to 80, now's a good time to buy real estate, because you've got 40 or 50 work years ahead of you. And if you're going to get 1 or 2% growth over that time, if you dollar cost average that and accrue that over the course of time, you could turn thousands of dollars in real estate into millions of dollars when you hit 50 and 60. And that's what you really want, is to have more money at your retirement age. So that's one way to invest. These folks see the net asset values and the growth, what's known as the return on investment, to be significant, but it's also significant because it happens in a shorter period of time. These folks don't have to wait 5 and 6 decades, like many real estate investors do, to reap a significant return on investment. And so there are some factors that have influenced the magnanimous growth or advancement of capital appreciation in professional sport properties. Now, let me first tell you that as we have this conversation, it always makes me proud to say that it is those of us, the professional sport managers, that run the businesses for them. And because it's us that run the businesses for them, we've figured out how to make them a lot of money. And therefore, they turn around and they entrust us with their assets and their talents, parable of talents. If we show ourselves good stewards, they will entrust us with their talents and their resources, and they'll pay us really well. And they'll keep paying you really well. If you figure out how to make money for a rich guy, he's going to keep you on the payroll. I mean, how hard is that to understand? You will make a lot of money, and then one day you will become that rich guy, and you can hire North Greenville graduates to work for you, which is what we want. That's a good thing. So they have figured out that we know we're doing on running sport businesses. We have figured out how to build and manage a sport property and do it so well that they keep us employed and empowered. And they own it, and we run it for them, and everybody wins. They keep paying us, they pay us more, we have fun doing what we're doing, this is what we've trained to do, and everybody gets. Now sometimes they give us a chance through an ESOP program, or an employee stock option to actually buy into it. There are examples in professional minor league properties and other private businesses where the owners actually give executive management or executive leadership opportunities to buy in. In my career, I've already had a couple of instances where I bought in and owned a wellness center. I bought in and owned the real estate operations of a business called Transitions. And I bought into ownership, what's called membership in an LLC of another business firm. So as you advance in your professional career and you show yourself good stewards and good managers, you'll also have the opportunity to buy into and own a piece or more pieces of that business. And that's not uncommon in today's marketplace. It's not made available at everybody at every level, but when you rise and elevate in a business, certain businesses, the owners, sometimes private owners, sometimes public owners, create those ESOP, which is an employee stock option plan. They create those options, or even internally they give those options for individuals to buy into. Sometimes they want to retire and they want to see the business carry on, and so they might create an opportunity for you and a handful of others to buy their shares or buy them out as an owner, and that's also fun and a fun opportunity. My father had the chance to do that at one point in time when he helped start his own hydraulic cylinder business in 1972 with a group of men, and he bought a small amount, about 5% stock in the company. And he bought a little bit more through the 70s and 80s, and then a couple of the key owners retired, and they sold their ownership, which were the largest stakes, to those who were the minority owners. And my dad went from a 6 or 7 or an 8% owner to about a 40% owner. I wouldn't say overnight. Obviously, you had to figure out the buyout, but so those opportunities avail themselves again for us who work in the private sport businesses. On a side note, my dad took that business to an $18 million a year hydraulic cylinder business in the late 1980s. That's significant back then, and he became the president of the company for a number of years, and then he negotiated their buyout by a holding company called Stendex, who paid $34 million to buy the company, and my dad's stock blew up. And so those are the kind of fun opportunities that avail themselves to you. If you work hard and you're a good manager and you're a good money manager and you're a good righteous steward, sometimes those opportunities, I don't want to say fall in your lap, because a lot of times you've earned the right for those. The Bible says that righteous living leads to basically doors that open into your life. Unrighteous living will close every door you can possibly imagine. Let's be honest. If you want to have those opportunities, live the way God wants you to live, and He'll provide those for you. So net asset value is the value of the growth of the asset as it relates to the point in time in which they sell, price discovery. There is a lot of net asset value to be had and gained, what we call a return on investment in professional sport. Now, what are some of the factors that influence the growth of the professional sport? The value of the properties, what makes them grow? Well, maybe before I answer that, would one of you like to take a stab at that? What affects, other than us as managers, what else affects the growth of professional sport properties? Yes, Connor.
The interest in the sport, like how well it's marketed, and just how people see it as a sport.
Okay, that reflects back on us a little bit. So most of your professional franchises, they have foundations. Remember, we talked about this. And the foundation, it's one of its sole purposes is to go into the local community. And so I don't remember which team but their desire was to go into that local regional MSA, that local community, probably 2, 3, 4 county area, and market heavily, having social service programs and community service programs and public relations and community relations, going into schools and hospitals and autograph sessions and golf tournaments, all kinds of things to create interest so that people will buy tickets and buy ticket packages and buy season tickets, that they will become fans, that they will go to the virtual store and buy the stuff and become supporters of your team. So that's done through the foundations. And yes, that's important, but that's not actually where the teams make most of their money. And so what we have to discern is, where do the teams make the most money? Because that's probably where the growth is to be found. The truth is, if there's only 100,000 people live in your community, there's only so many people that are going to buy tickets and come to your games. There's only so many people that'll buy stuff at the local level. So we do a good job of really attacking the local market, and that's not the right word to use, but branding to the local market. But we have to go well beyond that to really make the kind of dollars we're talking about here. So what else might influence the growth of professional sport properties?
Television.
Say again?
Television.
Yeah, so let's expand that a little further. Let's just call it technology and media. Yeah, so as mass media evolved in the 80s and then into the 90s, and so then you began to create not just fans at the local level, but now we've created this fandom that is worldwide. And so I could be a fan of the Buckeyes and never visit Columbus ever again. I can buy their stuff, watch their TVs, I can subscribe to the Big Ten Network and pay them, then they get the money. So you and I can advance as fans, or we can cultivate fans on a global market. The whole notion of emerging markets is that I can create Buckeye fans in Asia. And they never even visited the United States, because we've figured out ways to do that is through the mass medias and the mainstream medias and the alternate medias and the telemedias. So all of that has allowed us to be able to expand our ability to reach more people, not just the local market who come to my games and sit in my seats, but they're actually watching and subscribing and buying, and they're sponsoring, and there's actually more transactions that go on outside of the local market than inside the local market. So expanding into new markets has greatly enhanced, and that has been catapulted by the medias and technologies and all these things, the virtual stores. And all the teams are doing that now. What's another one?
If the economy is doing really good.
Well, yes. I don't know if it necessarily affects the what we do know is that sport is a discretionary income spending based item for many of the middle class and social lower classes. So because of the fact that they're discretionary income, many of the folks, when the economies of life are difficult, they cut back on things, and usually we cut back on our entertainment. So there's a lot of research out there that says when the economy goes down, the market goes down, and things get bad, people cut their gym memberships, they cut off their golf course memberships, they stop going to the fitness center, they stop bowling, they stop playing racquetball and tennis, they cut their recreation and leisure spending to be able to conserve for just the bare root necessities of their own lives. And then as the economy transitions, we see spending in recreation, leisure, and entertainment really catapult. So I don't think it affects the overall value, but it certainly has cyclical effect, or it ebbs and flows based on that and how it affects the general operations of the business. We're talking about the overall asset growth. Let me just give you one other item that kind of attaches with the mainstream media is your television contracts and your media network contracts. So if you studied any of this in your sport comm class or maybe your media tech class, but these large broadcast rights deals, the growth and advancement of broadcast rights deals. So by signing 3-year and 5-year and 7-year and 10-year, those are elongated broadcast rights deals. We can generate more resources up front on the bigger payments up front, which grows the value of the organizations. So the Olympics now, instead of just signing a 4-year deal, they may sign an 8-year quadrennial deal or something along those lines, and they can build that package number with those networks. Again, those of us behind the scenes, the professional managers who negotiate that, are the ones who've been able to kind of leverage our assets with mainstream media who want to broadcast our stuff and really get the largest price point in the broadcast rights packages. How about Sport for the Rich? I talked about the article that you read, Sport for the Rich, regarding ticket sales and some of that. Does anybody have any thought and want to tie that in as well? So if you read that carefully and allow me to enunciate that just a little bit, the notion over the past 20 years is as we've seen the ticket costs get more expensive, people are not attending the local venues as much, so we're seeing declines in attendance at professional sport. Now they're staying home watching on TV, or they were in the late 90s and all the way to about 2014, but then we saw another trend. So for a long time, people would not go to the stadium because they could stay home and watch on TV. So it became a little bit more struggle to sell the seats at the stadium. Now we're also seeing a decline in the television coverage. Well, let's address the first matter and then we'll advance the second matter. So as the cost of ticketing, as we started paying more to the coaches and more to the athletes, and they started charging more, cost of hot dog went up, and parking went up, and seating went up, and it became a little bit more difficult. The cost, the inflationary cost, outpaced the individual who makes $45,000 or $50,000 a year, the household that makes $60,000 a year. And so they started deciding, we're just going to stay home and watch on TV. We're not going to go. Well, that enhances television ratings, but it declines the actual attendance. So we've seen for about 20 years, with the exception of the NFL, there's been attendance declines in most of our stadiums, arenas, convention centers. We used to pack them in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And now, with few exceptions, if it's not just for the Super Bowl, the World Cup, or the World Series, or the Olympics on a regular basis, or even some college football, where for the most part we're not able to pack stadiums anymore, which has made it a little more cost difficult. So because of that, in the early 2000s, we started to tear those cheap seats out. We started to tear the poor person seats out, middle class seats out. We replaced them with private seat licenses. We replaced them with private seat packages or personal seat licenses. We put in more luxury boxes. We put in restaurants. We put in museums. We put in specialty parking. We put in the amenities. Water parks and water features. I've been to several parks that have water features, and there's a birthday party going on while there's a baseball game going on. And the kids are having a birthday party. They have no idea the baseball game's going on. Baseball people have no idea birthday party's going on. And so it's crazy. We've built in these amenities. We've created these small little theme parks. You and I call it a stadium, arena, or convention center. Connor, you okay? You look like you does nothing. Okay. No, don't look at him. Don't look at him. It's embarrassing. Let me do that. And so these amusement parks are very costly. And so then we have to charge more. So by adding more amenities and creating lots of luxurious luxury boxes, we now have had to turn around in our marketing positions for selling stadiums, arenas, convention centers, no longer to the poor and middle class, but it's to the rich folks and to the corporate elites. So the corporations buy and rent the corporate luxury boxes, the rich families buy and rent the personal seat licenses and the private parking, the private seating area, and then individual entities will rent the facilities for birthday parties or corporate parties or whatever. I remember visiting the Detroit Tigers stadium one time, and I was at the Detroit Athletic Club, and it's a rich person's athletic club. You have to make $1 million or more a year just to even become a member of the DAT, the Detroit Athletic, DAC, Detroit Athletic Club. I got invited there, and you had to wear a suit and tie just to get in, and they had the ball center on the bottom, the fitness center, and then the steakhouse upstairs, and the lowest item on the menu is $250 a plate. So that's the kind of people we're talking about. So I was there for a guest visiting, doing some business, and top floor is the center field, outfield, the Detroit Tigers Stadium, so you could watch the game while you're eating $1 million steak, that kind of thing. And that was kind of fun. But so those kind of amenities are being built into stadiums, arenas, or convention centers, but they're not built in for poor people. It's called sport for the rich. We've moved professional sport, and we tore out the cheap seats. We tore out the major middle class seats. And we created a venue full of amenities and entertainment options, but those which you can barely afford. So corporations lease them, buy the facilities and the stadiums, arena, the luxury suites, and all sorts of things. Now you can save up and you can go to some of those, and they obviously have opportunities for us. But the new financial model is that they're promoting themselves to the corporate elite and the uber elite. And so then we just stay home watching TV. Unfortunately, what has happened now in the last 10 years, this last decade, is that we've had so many entertainment options. You have more so, just like you're playing on right now, there's so many entertainment options. And don't look at it, you're embarrassing, it's my turn to do that. And so then what happens is whoever's watching sport on TV now gets cannibalized and spread out across lots and lots and lots of entertainment options, and then our ratings go down. And so we've seen our ratings in every professional sport property, with the exception of the NFL, which is flat. We've seen our ratings decline because you all have entertainment options that are just enumerated over and over and over again. You can watch YouTube on just about anything, and TikTok, and you can have your own channels, you can make your own stuff, and so you don't dedicate time to watch sport because people are doing videos and watching things and being entertained in other ways. And the more we've made entertainment more convenient through the entertainment box, through the enemy of your soul is your entertainment box, what happens is It then takes people away from traditional bedrock sport, and so now they're not going to the sporting events, and they're barely watching the sporting events. And so now we are dependent on largely one class of people to basically support professional sport, and that is who? The rich. It's called Sport for the Rich. So you get to work for the rich. Enjoy it, folks. Yep, yeah. They're the ones that pay for it. Hey, we're about the poor, middle class. You work for the rich. Yes, you do. You want to be a professional athlete, you'll work for the rich. And you can be in denial, but it doesn't work any other way, folks. Now you want to change it? I'll help you make change. It's going to be a hard road, though. All right. So go ahead.
At what point do you think, like, even the rich won't want to go, and then they'll have to go back to, like,
Sure. So why did the rich get into it? The start of this discussion.
to make money?
Yeah. There's a lot of money to be made. It's big money. The net asset values and the capital appreciations of owning professional sport franchises. A person who is worth hundreds of millions of dollars or a billionaire can buy a franchise, and with a little bit of this and a little bit of that and hiring a bunch of us, they can make that asset worth more. And they gain that profit. Again, the kind of investments that I make at my level, and I'm a professional person, are small compared to those folks. They want to make investments that grow and grow big, just like I do, but I don't have the capacity. Fred Benfield doesn't have the capacity. Whoever doesn't have the capacity to go. So it's these people have the capacity to buy a $500 million professional sport franchise, and in 10 or 15 years turning into a $1 or $1.5 billion investment which they can sell. There's capital gains tax on it, there's some other things, and they do, sometimes they have to borrow money from insurance companies and things, so they're paying debt service back. So what happens is the operating profits every year help pay the debt service back, and all along the asset grows in value. So I buy a second house. I own rental properties, so let's just say the second house I own over here, I buy it for $100,000 and I've got a mortgage on it, and I've got a renter in there, and the renter's paying me what? They're paying me rent, and I'm turning around and I'm doing what with that rent? I'm paying the mortgage on it. So they're paying off the asset for me. And every time they make a payment to me and I make the payment back to the bank, I own a little bit more of that asset. Same thing here. As you operate the team for them, the team makes money. The franchise makes $20 million a year. They take that money and they give it to the bank, and it pays more of that asset off them. The truth is, the rich know how to leverage their assets to be able to buy big assets. But that's why. So now, will they ever get out of it? Why would they? There's money to be made. There's no reason to.